Shalom. This week's Sedra is Sedra Bo. At a recent gathering, a Torah scholar declared, and excuse me for quoting and reading, but I want to get this right, the ethos of the internet, which values instant gratification, is the opposite of the holiness needed to become a Torah scholar. Another website states, filters are an important tool in the responsible use of the internet. Without a filter, someone browsing the web may accidentally stumble onto, or in a moment of weakness, intentionally go to objectionable websites. A filter will prevent that access or at least make it more difficult. In this Dvar Torah, I'd like to examine whether restrictions like internet filters are consistent with Torah philosophy. I'll argue that instead of placing restrictions on the life to prevent sinning, the Torah places reminders of values instead. To prove my points, I'll examine the plague of the firstborn, and examine why firstborn prisoners of Egypt and Egyptian cattle died in the plague. I hope that the viewer strengthens their awareness of God from this Dvar Torah. In our study, we study the plague of the firstborn, and we learn that at midnight, Hashem killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Paro, who sits on the throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and every firstborn animal. Rashi is troubled as to why non-Egyptians, the captives, fell victim to the plague. He explains that captives rejoiced at Israel's misfortune, and in addition there was a concern that the captives would think that it was their God punishing the Egyptians. As much as Rashi's comments explain why captives died in the plague, it doesn't explain why the animals died. Hashem explained that a chief objective of the plague was to make the Egyptians aware of God's existence. As Hashem stated, with this, meaning the plagues, you will know that I am the Lord. There are two paths to understand the objective of the plague of the firstborn. Either as a means to punish the Egyptians, which isn't advanced by killing firstborn animals at all, or to raise awareness of God's existence. And that's the answer to our question as to why God had to kill the firstborn animals. God kills the firstborn animals not as a punishment to the Egyptians, so of course not to the animals, but rather to increase and spread the awareness of his own existence. While our rabbis decreed certain behaviors forbidden to distance us from sin, the Rambam eloquently stated that the Torah's ideal approach to keeping on the right path in his writings on tefillin. And I quote the Rambam, whoever wears tefillin on his head and his arm, or tzitzis on his garment, and has a mezuzah on his entrance, can be assured that he will not sin, because he has many reminders. Raising awareness of God, not filtering out the world, is the Torah's approach to staying on the right path and avoiding sin. While some may need an internet filter, a more balanced approach is to browse the internet as we do with the rest of our lives, with an awareness of God. Shabbat Shalom.